Hello, everyone. Delighted to see you all. I'm thrilled that this afternoon, on this beautiful afternoon in, I think it's still May, we have two wonderful members of the Colorado Music Festival Orchestra, Carson McTeer and Ryan Murphy. And I'm here to welcome them. They're doing some very interesting things for us this summer. But let's start, Ryan, with you. I always love to know, how did you start playing the cello?
Well, I have a mom who I'm fortunate enough to have a mom who is actually a music educator herself. She was a elementary school violin teacher and taught strings for years and years and years. And so she started me and my brothers all on violin. And I was a Suzuki student, which meant I had to stand for a long time during Suzuki weekends, listening to every song and every book going through, and would often look over. I think I was 3 or 4 at the time, would look over and see all the cellists getting to sit down the entire time. So I figured it'd be a good idea to play cello so that I could sit down through these things, and haven't looked back since.
Amazing how these things happen. How many brothers do you have?
I've got 2 younger brothers that are both taller than me.
Okay. I have 2 older brothers that are both taller than me. But
yeah.
So then what age did you start playing the cello, actually?
I started at 5.
At 5. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were living where at that time?
I was another fortunate circumstance. I was in St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised, and they've got a really, really strong Suzuki program. So there were kids that, by the time I was 15, had known for 10 years that are still playing, some of them.
Fantastic. And then, so you were, all of high school was in St. Louis, and then what about college? Where did you go?
College, I went to the Cleveland Institute of Music and studied with Stephen Gaber, then principal cellist of the Cleveland Orchestra.
Sure.
And then for my master's, went up to New York at Juilliard.
And studied with whom?
Bonnie Hampton.
Oh, Bonnie Hampton. Lovely.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Fantastic. Great. And how did you become a member of the Colorado Music Festival Orchestra?
The principal cellist at the time was a guy named Bjorn Ranheim, who also studied with Stephen Gaber. And I think
playing in St. Louis, am I right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think he called Mr. Gaber and asked him, they needed a late minute cello replacement. And Mr. Gaber gave him my name. I think at the time I was living in New York and just hanging out for the summer. And so didn't have any plans, and came up and played for the season, and then auditioned at the end of the summer. I think it was maybe 102 degrees in the hall. And we were rehearsing for Mahler Symphony that week, and played an audition in those circumstances after rehearsal.
What year was that?
Oh man, I think this would have been my 11th summer. So do the math.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think 2009, something like that.
I was there. That was Mahler 3, right?
Oh, possibly.
Yeah, because it was 102 degrees on stage. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, that was a pretty tough one.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Carson, what about you? Yeah, I mean, they're playing the tuba. How do you come to that?
When I find out, I'll let you know. No, it's there was a very specific story. So when I was young, I saw the Mr. Rogers show. Are you familiar with that, Peter? The Mr. Rogers?
I watch it every day.
Okay. I bet you do.
Oh, I love Mr. Rogers. He was adorable.
Yeah. Well, there's one episode where he goes to the Empire Brass, goes to their houses, and picks each of them up to take them to his house, and or take them to a rehearsal space. They do rehearsal. And I'll never forget, I can still see it in my head, when he went to go pick up the tuba player, this guy opens the door, and he's got this big head of hair, and he's holding the tuba, and he plays, I think it's like Fly the Bumblebee or something. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to play when it's time right there. That's cool. Ends up that tuba player was Sam Palafian, who ended up becoming one of my idols on the instrument, and I ended up working with him and everything. But he's the reason I played the tuba, is because I saw him on Mr. Rogers.
Incredible. So the tuba was your first instrument?
Yeah. Went straight to it in the 6th grade. So it's 11, something like that.
And do you use a slightly smaller tuba when you're 11, or?
Well, you're supposed to, but our school only had, I would still consider this a big tuba. It's this old Martin 2-piece thing. It was huge. And I hadn't hit my growth spurt or anything yet. So I had to take the tuba home and lay down on the bed to play it sideways. It's the only way I could manage the thing. So I was like, lay on the bed. It must have been hilarious. It's too bad there weren't, cell phone cameras back then, because, there'd be all sorts of gems out there floating around. But I played on the side, but it was great because I'd run out of air and like hyperventilate and stuff, and I was already on a bed, so it was safe.
It gives me a fantastic idea about some kind of performance one summer at the festival. Amazing. And so now, where were you growing up then? What part of the country?
So that would have been Norman, Oklahoma. And then from there, I went off and finished my high school at the Interlochen Arts Academy. I got serious about the tuba during high school. That's a separate story, which is pretty cool when I decided to, pursue it as a career. But I went off to Interlochen and then Rice University with David Kirk, one of my favorite tuba players in the world. I had to go study with him. And then after that, it was work, New World Symphony, and then started working.
New World Symphony. Wonderful.
Yeah.
What years were you in? Oh, that would give away your age. We're not going to do that.
What was that? 5 years ago, something like that? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you guys are going to be doing something really. But Carson, I didn't ask you about how you came to Colorado Music Festival.
Right. There was a while there where I was playing with the Colorado Symphony and also teaching at University of Colorado there in Boulder. And there was a tuba opening, and I was already there. And Michael Christie was the music director, and I sent in a recording and won the job. And then I started playing there for a while. Then I got some other work came up, and there was a summer season when I was playing with the Cincinnati Symphony, and I had to leave the orchestra, unfortunately. But then it worked out again for a second time to come back.
Back with us.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Wonderful to have you with us. Fantastic. Yeah. It's a little known fact, but becoming more known fact that Carson is a pretty incredible chef as well. More about that, maybe.
Master, yes.
Oh, okay. Master.
I can't boil pasta, but I can make a mean rack of ribs.
That's all we care about.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about your plans. You guys are up to something rather unusual this summer, because this summer is unusual in every possible way. But tell us, whoever wants to start.
Hopefully Ryan, because I have no clue what we're doing.
I have no idea what we're doing either.
I'm really looking forward to it. Very nice to meet you both. Bye-bye.
Yeah. See.
Well, the idea is, especially at this point, we've been all sequestered for a number of weeks and months, and I think it's more important than ever to kind of keep the arts, and in our case, classical music, in people's lives in any way we can. And even though we're not going to be able to kind of join up together in force, I think we're going to try and make just a series of videos to kind of plumb the depths of the interesting things about the membership of the Colorado Music Festival, have some instrument features, maybe some funny videos, maybe even some cooking. I would love to get some cooking tips from Carson, so if we could just put it in a video, even better, because it is actually a very large part of our socializing during the summer. I think it's as big a part of the festival as going to Corelli's or to the Dark Horse or any of that kind of thing. So it's just maybe a more behind the scenes look at what we do and how we do it, and just to kind of again just bring us all together in a bit of a different way, just a little bit more of a creative necessity.
And as you could tell, Ryan and I are very serious.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
People.
Oh yeah.
And so we want this to be like the real serious side of the orchestra.
Right. Mostly philosophical, I'm assuming.
Absolutely, yeah.
Somber topics.
But actually, it's interesting because figuring out a way to kind of humanize this whole experience is very valuable right now, don't you think? I mean, all of us have been, everybody has been on Zoom or whatever they use, FaceTime, far more than they ever could have imagined. But there are elements of this that are actually kind of cool. You find out that, like, we wouldn't have been talking about this, for example, we would never have had this conversation, but for this situation. And I love the idea that I'm getting to know you because it's an opportunity for, and I think there are a lot of members of the orchestra that have, of course, probably almost every member of the orchestra has a really interesting story and really interesting point of view about various things. And it should be really fun for people because they come into concerts and they see them play, and they imagine maybe what they might be like as people, but now they're going to really find that out. It's great that we're doing it.
I think that's like the main point. We want you guys to see, we want the audience to see the crazy cast of characters that this festival has, in its ranks. It's really, and it's one of the reasons I love, being a part of it for all the people. I mean, it's just so much fun, last year at the end of the festival, sitting out in the audience for a concert when there was no, I wasn't needed on tuba, and listening to the concert and seeing all my friends and knowing all their stories and the things they do, and then they get up there on stage, and everybody's got the serious music making face, and they're just pouring their hearts out, and it's really amazing. And I think the audience members should have that same opportunity as well, get to know us, because we're not, we're only a little bit boring, mostly fun. Yeah.
So do you think this, you say crazy cast of characters, in your experience, and you've played in a few orchestras, Carson, and Ryan, maybe you have as well, here and there. How does this rate on the level of crazy?
Oh, geez. Well, musicians in general are nuts. But I would say this is pretty high up there.
Well, and it's not so much how high or low crazy, it's just different kind of crazy, Every orchestra has its own
spending
unique
a
flavor.
lot of time together.
Yeah.
But the one thing I feel is that it's a very happy crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. It's a family.
Yeah.
And there's weirdly a lot of pretty exemplary athletes in our orchestra, which is something I wanted to explore. I mean, we've got people that can deadlift over 500 pounds. We've got people that run marathons and do triathlons, like a few
Ryan,
people.
you promised you wouldn't talk about me like this.
Of course, but I got to put it all out there for the audience here.
So, are you going to tell me who those people are?
You'll have to wait and see, I think.
That's right. Big surprises ahead.
I particularly want to know who can lift a 500 pounds.
It probably wouldn't.
You won't be
surprise
surprised.
I don't think it would surprise them.
But that's it. And what about other kinds of athletics? Anything else that comes to mind?
One of our horn players has, I think, done over a dozen or so 14ers. I think the horn section in particular. I mean, we had Greg.
One of the horn players does curling.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But we've got cyclists.
Surely Canadian.
Yes.
Of course, obviously. Again, I don't think it would surprise you to know who, but the two of them, Megan and the horn section in general is
Catherine.
just like superb. Yeah, Catherine, they're just superbly athletic. But I know they do triathlons together.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, outside of the orchestra, I don't think I know anybody that does triathlon.
I know. I mean, Catherine did the Ironman this year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
She did really incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So I don't really ever need to let her breathe. That's great.
No.
That's why she doesn't ever breathe.
It's good to know. And so, and now, how are you going to be doing all of this? So you guys going to be traveling around a little bit, or just staying at home? How are you figuring this?
Well, I think we're going to do a lot of it just like we're doing it now, just on Zoom. And we're fortunate enough to be friends with a lot of these people, and are in semi-regular contact with them anyway. So it's just the new normal, so it won't hopefully feel too weird. This feels great, by the way. You're doing awesome. So
I find this whole thing really nice, actually, because when you have meetings on Zoom, I don't know if other people are experiencing this, but everybody's right there looking at you. Whereas you have a meeting in a room at a round table or something, you can't see half the faces, and then the other half are far away from you. Everybody's equidistant, and I think there's something very intimate about it, which I actually am enjoying.
Yeah, it's kind of like a long distance relationship in some ways, where you're forced to kind of focus on maybe an aspect of the relationship, communication, sharing things maybe in a different way than you're used to, and especially because we're not playing our instruments right now, engaging in a very, very different way to get to know your colleagues and your friends, your family even, in a much more in-depth sort of manner. So it's kind of trying to find the silver linings in this crazy situation. And creative ways to re-engage, to continue engaging, continue to keep music and the arts as part of people's lives. I think is vitally important.
Fabulous. Well, I'm delighted that you guys have volunteered to do this, and we really appreciate it. And I think with your wonderful personalities and senses of humor, it's going to be a lot of fun. Anything else you wanted to add to for us to look forward to in particular?
One aspect I'd like to highlight as well is the family aspect of this festival. There's a lot of kids, and there's kind of a crew of those kids that all hang out in the summer where we live, and it'll be interesting to kind of get some of them on there, and so that again our audience members can see just how far the impact this festival has for all involved. My daughter comes out for a good chunk of the festival, and she has friends that she communicates with throughout the year because of the festival. It's really neat, that it's just life experiences that she has loved, and she's really bummed she doesn't get to come out this year. Because they just take over that back part of the Creekside Hotel. Yeah, they just take over and run the show, and it's really neat. So we'll hopefully have some of that as well.
Well, nothing more important for any of us than exciting the next generation always.
Yeah.
I mean, after all, that's how we all started, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Somebody played us some music or took us to an event somewhere, and had that not happened, we'd be doing something else most probably. So great.
Sad.
Good, wonderful. Well, thank you both so much in advance for all of this fun social media stuff that you can, and I look forward to seeing it myself. And meanwhile, be safe and take care, and hope very much to see you in person in 2021.
Yes.
Absolutely. Hopefully.
Great. All righty.
All right.
All the best. Okay. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.